Hey, welcome to another episode of Action Gallery. And today we'll be talking a lot about actually a new action, maybe the simplest action that we've ever published, but also perhaps one of the most useful actions that will help save you time and ultimately make it easier to manage the more complex workflows that you're building. This action is called format output. It only has one output here, which is called the output template. And you guessed it, it's designed to help you format the outputs if you want to include them all in one. What we're looking at here is actually a workflow that is designed specifically to be a little bit more complex because this action wouldn't make any sense if you only had one output. But let's take a look at it. It should be pretty straightforward. The workflow is designed to actually just take in an input. The input is going to be a URL to a blog post. It's going to then scrape the blog post. It's going to extract the title of the post. It's going to write a nice clean summary. And then it's going to write a few different social posts, a LinkedIn post, a Facebook post, an Instagram post. We'll build on the create image action that we just discussed in a previous action gallery recording by creating an image prompt and generating an image. And then finally, we will use our format output step, which I've renamed here format email. The idea here is that we can actually use format in order to help coalesce all of these outputs into a single output so it's easier for us to be able to look at it and otherwise use it in other actions. So if I go to test workflow here, I believe I used the same blog post that I discussed a minute ago. What is the difference between LLMs? And so it scrapes the post, it summarizes it, it writes, a pretty simple LinkedIn post, a simple Facebook post, a simple Instagram post, a nice image prompt that results in this image, which is actually also a pretty good, accompaniment image for, in this case, Instagram is what I was kind of after. And then finally, it uses format output to give us kind of a clean look at what the overall output of this is for. So I said promotional assets for a given blog. We have our summary nicely defined. We have a LinkedIn post nicely defined. We have a Facebook post nicely defined. We have the Instagram post, and then we also include the Instagram picture. Now, why call this format email? Well, because the last thing that we need to do is add another step called notify email. Send notification email, which will actually send me an email with this content in it. In this case, I can use blog post summary for title that we had a second ago. And then for the email body, I can just say format email. This will actually allow me to send a nicely formatted, clean email that contains the blog post. Actually, this is blog post promotion for that exact blog title. And then the actual email, and it'll actually email me these particular results. Now, if I go back and actually test this workflow one more time, we can actually see what this email ends up looking like when I get it in my inbox. I'll go back here and we will rerun this guy. It's a few seconds here. While we're waiting, let me actually show you how I formatted the email. I'm simply using double hashtags here to represent markdown syntax. Again, markdown syntax, if you don't know what it is, you can Google markdown syntax and I'm sure figure it out. It's basically just an alternative to HTML that nicely formats things. And I've just got labels for all the stuff I'm generating, and then actually the final thing, which is the actual property, the actual posts or summaries or all the stuff that I'm actually generating. Cool. Just in time. What's the difference between LLMs? We get the summary, we get the LinkedIn post, we get the blog posts, we get this time actually also a pretty cool image, and then the nicely formatted output of all of those things together, and a notification success from this particular action. And we'll take a look at what the email actually comes back looking like as well. There we have it. Probably should have used HTML formatting because not all email platforms will support Markdown. But I get this nicely formatted email that gives me all the info I was looking for and also a direct link to that particular image. So, there we have it, a simple walkthrough of how you can use the format action to do something like this, which allows us to format emails. Let's look at one other use case for format output, which might be interesting to you as well, particularly if you're trying to do more programmatic things with Copy.ai. This is going to be actually a very similar blog promotion workflow, but it's designed to actually take the blog post, determine target audiences, and then write 3 LinkedIn posts for us. We're then going to do something kind of interesting with format output. Imagine we actually want a JSON structure out of the other end, a specific structure, the URL of the blog post, and then the 3 posts that we generated to promote it for each of the actual audiences we decided was important. What I've done here is kind of mocked up what this format should look like, and then it's got 3 posts and embedded those 3 posts along with the URL. Next, we're actually going to pass the output of format output to a step called validate JSON, which is designed to ensure that basically all the things that we need to do to validate the JSON, like escaping characters and whatnot, is present and performed appropriately. When we test this workflow with again the same blog post that we were looking at a second ago, we get somewhat expected results. The 3 audiences are AI researchers, marketers, and content creators, and sales professionals. We then have kind of 3 different LinkedIn posts that it has generated. Format output does a pretty good job of kind of creating the overall structure of it, but as we can tell, it's breaking in certain instances because there are characters within it that it shouldn't have, like spaces or commas or things that are going to break the JSON output. So this final action then just converts this to actual JSON, and if we were trying to share this with an API that expected a blog URL, and then kind of 3 different blog posts that were individually separated, this would ultimately be able to give us the exact input that we would need in order to be able to integrate with it. So one last step here, let's just confirm that what we got was actually valid JSON. We can head over to find a simple JSON validator here and get rid of the advertisement. We'll look at JSON lints. I can copy and paste the exact results from Copy.ai. And when I hit validate JSON, I get a note that the JSON is in fact valid. This will, of course, help us to ensure that we're always sending appropriate responses to an API. In reality, once you test this a couple of times, you don't obviously need a JSON validator. Just thought it would be important to prove that this format action can actually help us solve these kinds of problems as well. There you have it, possibly our most simple action, but also possibly our most versatile. There's a lot of ways that you might use format in order to just simplify the outputs that you're getting from Copy.ai and make them easier to read, easier to digest, and easier to share with either others or other systems entirely. Thanks again. Looking forward to seeing what you use format for in the future.